Welcome back. Another edition of WFAN Daily. And I'm Anthony Gallo. A huge week in New York City. Yes, most of you know the Subway Series is taking place this weekend. But at the other ballpark in Queens, we have the other rivalry in town, the Hudson River Derby, NYCFC versus the New York Red Bull. And someone very familiar, the all-time leading goal scorer in it, a guy who tortured me as an NYCFC fan in person, on TV, from afar and up close. Bradley Wright-Phillips joins us again. Welcome back, Bradley. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me again. Good to catch
Yes,
up, man. Let's talk.
yes, I'm very excited. I was pumped up. It's so funny. I know I mentioned this last time, and I hate harping on this, how much I loathed you as a player. But I'm very excited to talk to you again. And again, I had your buddy Dax on
Yeah,
previously. Again, just guys who tortured me. It's just
yeah.
like I'll probably get Sasha on at some point. Just go down the line of guys who tortured me.
But
But
Anthony, that's how it's supposed to be, right? We're
right,
supposed to have that, like, we need each other, but we're supposed to hate each other. It's meant to
yes.
be that. It's real.
Yes, joining us from the MLS TV, the Apple TV MLS Season Pass, which you guys do a great job. And again, not to rehash old things, but when I saw the lineup, I was like, could they get someone who didn't play for the Red Bull on there?
Yeah,
But you guys do a fantastic job. I stand by it. It's the best coverage in all of sports in America. I think
appreciate
I really wish more of these pro league entities would do what you guys do when you're really innovative over there. So I've loved everything. But let's
appreciate
jump into it. I mentioned the Subway Series. There's a
Yeah.
lot of similarities there, and I know you played in the Hudson River Derby. But the biggest thing with the Subway Series and the Hudson River Derby is that battling boroughs with the Hudson River Derby. It's almost like New York versus New Jersey.
Yeah.
New York is split. For you as a player, what did these matches mean to you?
It's it's hard to put into words. And I don't want to exaggerate, but they were everything to me because just growing up, obviously, from a kid, a big fan of the game. All the games that, I remember when I was young, all the really important games were derby matches.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dream of being a footballer, you want to play in those kind of games. You dream of scoring in these kind of games. So when I first got to the Red Bulls, we had the rivalry with DC United, but there was
Mm-hmm.
no derby, same city or same, but like, we just didn't have it. And
Right.
when I heard you guys were coming in, it was straight away, I got nervous. I'm like, this team, they can't win a cup before us. You did. They can't, finish above us in the league. All of these things, I don't want their top goal scorer to outshine me. So there was just like that immediate like I need to outdo these guys. And going into those games, it was nerves, it was excitement, it was like just opportunity. It was everything to me. It was one of those games where you look in the beginning of the season, it's not about points. It's
Mm-hmm.
that game where you just want to be the man, you want to stand out and everything's on the line for the fans.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, we came into the league. I know the league kind of, this was a natural rivalry. The league kind
Yeah.
of pushed NYCFC to be rivals with Orlando. But
Yeah.
that, and again, a little bit of a rivalry because we both entered the league at the same time. But this
Yeah.
really was, for me, one of the first big disappointments, but
Yeah.
also one of the first big matches I got to see.
But
And
yeah,
for you guys, how was it? Like, you had been there for what, a year already at
I
Red
had
Bull?
been there, no, like 2 years maybe.
2 years. And
Yeah.
that feeling of this new team's in town
Yeah.
and also coming with you being the goal scorer, one of the greatest in MLS
Yeah.
history. You have the rival goal scorer at David Villa. Just
Yeah.
that energy around it, that I'm sure that added extra fuel to the fire.
So imagine playing for a team that is, what I mean, you've done really, especially in 2015. Like, I feel like when did you guys come into the league? 16, 15,
16. No,
16,
15, but yeah, 15. 16
15.
was the 7-0.
Yeah,
So
so 14. So we had like Thierry Henry, we had Tim
mhm.
Cahill, we were the team, we were just missing out on, Emily, we were getting into the playoffs and having decent runs. And I remember you guys coming in and it was just like almost we were forgotten about. Because now you're coming in with these stars, David Villa, Frank Lampard, Pirlo, and we're just like, hold on a minute. We're the ones that's been grinding, but they're getting a lot of love. So it was almost like it gave us a chip on our shoulder. We have to outshine these guys. It was weird, man. But I told you it was just immediate pressure. That's what it felt like. I remember just being in the locker room and then hearing about you guys coming. It was just immediate pressure for me. Like these guys could not outdo us. They cannot get a cup before us. And yeah,
You guys rose to the occasion early because it was a very lopsided rivalry,
yeah,
at least those first 3 years. Does anything, obviously, the cherry picking one would be the 7-0 in
yeah,
2016. I
yeah,
sat there for all 7 goals. It wasn't until about the fifth one went in that I was like, I think this is over. But is
yeah.
there a moment particularly that stands out to you? You are the leading goal scorer in that rivalry.
Yeah.
Uh, but one moment in particular that stands out to you
It's the
in all your matches?
It's the first ever game at Red Bull Arena. I know everyone always comes to me and I get asked this a lot and they think it's going to be the 7-0. I think the 7-0 was fun because that doesn't happen. That's never going to happen again. It's one of those things. Everything went right for us. Everything went wrong for you guys. But for me, the best one was my favorite memory was the first ever one at Red Bull Arena, well, Sports Illustrated now, because it was the first one. No one knew what to expect. There was stars on the pitch. I remember saying in an interview before I wanted to be the first person to ever score in this derby. That's where my head was at. I knew that this is going to be big. I knew this was going to be something big. I wanted to be in the history books, and to get that goal, I think I got two on the day. So to get the first goal,
Mhm.
it just meant everything to me because I put so much on this game. For weeks I was thinking about this game. So the first one, ever
Well,
won.
you are entrenched in history because even me getting ready to do the images for this, you go on Getty Images and you search Hudson River Derby, you are the first four images that pop up. And it like cuts deep into my soul. You
Yeah,
say 7-0, and it doesn't happen a lot. But starting with the Red Bull, a very up and down season for them. They go to Inter Miami, lose 4-1 in a game
yeah,
that was very lopsided, but
yeah,
then come home against the defending champions and score 7 goals. They get the clean sheet. Which version, and I'm not saying they're going to score 7 goals every time or
yeah.
lose by that gap, but which version of this Red Bull team do you think is more their true self?
It's a hard one because they're not the 4-1 against Inter Miami either. That's not them. I think
Mm-hmm.
in the last two games, it's been a bit, up and down. And that's what they've been searching for all season, some consistency. I think I think you see a Red Bull team that's going to have, built confidence off of that win. Come on, you score 7 goals, you're going to go into the next game firing on all cylinders. But for them, you couldn't get a worse game to go into when you're high because, this is a team that can very much humble you. In a derby, it doesn't matter about form. I think, yeah, so I think it's hard to judge which Red Bull is the real one. But they're a little somewhere in between both of those games, right? They're normally a tough team to score against. Every player on the pitch is going to work hard and they've struggled scoring multiple goals in games this season. So I think yeah, somewhere in between.
Well, and they also, I felt coming into that intermatch, they were under a lot of pressure because that team is coming off of their most disappointing loss,
Yeah,
maybe in
yeah,
the franchise's history,
yeah.
and they had to deal with that on the road. And now, I guess that was my next question: is how much do you think? I know you say that form doesn't matter going to the Derby. How much do you think destroying a defending champion like that can really help boost them against another team that is struggling to score goals in
Yeah.
NYCFC?
No, for sure. Anytime you're scoring goals, anytime you're getting chances, you're going to go in confident. I think you will see a fast start, because of how the last game went in this derby match. Yeah, obviously every win you take positives from it, but I spoke to Sandro a few times. I think he will cut that out immediately. I think like they play Nashville tomorrow, so I don't think they'll be thinking about that 7-0 game. I think it's you know what I mean it's back to normal. The one thing I will say I like what they done. You spoke about it in the Miami game. In that Inter Miami game, they didn't look like Red Bull. There was no runs in behind. There was no energy. The counter press wasn't great. And I think where LA Galaxy suffered was because of that poor performance. So now I could clearly see players and Mohamed Sofu running in behind, in behind Emil Forsberg and Choupo-Moting. The counter press, there was energy. Daniel Edelman was back in the midfield. So I think they started to feel a little bit more normal. They adjusted to those things they didn't do well in a Miami game.
And before we get to NYCFC, how much is last year's playoff derby going to maybe bleed into this for both
Yeah.
sides? And obviously, Red Bull kind of got away from their true self and beat NYCFC doing something they didn't normally do, which I thought was leading from the back line up and being
Yeah.
very defensive. Do you think that will bleed into this game, or that's kind of washed
No,
from last year?
it's not watched. It's funny because my experience with playing in the derbies and then just watching them now for the last few years, it's always tough. I think it's tough for Red Bull because they won the last game and in the playoffs, and to knock out your rival, you're going to be dealing with a different beast. It's just like it was unfortunate for New York that I know it sounds weird that they beat Red Bull 5-1 before that. Do you know what I mean? That now you
Right.
got to play against a team that's hurt, that's wounded. That there's no way they can let that happen again. And I think this is what Red Bull are going to have to face coming up against New York City on Saturday because
Right.
now that's a team that's like these guys. Remember, don't forget they knocked us out of the playoffs. So that's what Red Bull are going to be dealing with. So it definitely bleeds in. The last result is always something that plays on your mind.
And there's also the pressure of being the team that will be the perceived favorite. Same thing with NYCFC in that playoff
Yes,
matchup. You are the perceived favorite. And
you
yes, it
should
is.
win this. Yeah,
Yes. And I know it is a weird aspect of this with NYCFC because they play games at Red Bull Arena or
yeah,
Sports Illustrated Arena, and then they play games at Yankee Stadium this
yeah.
week at
City
City
Field.
Field.
Yeah,
So as much as it's a home match, it isn't truly a home match. So I do think there's a neutrality to that. Um,
yeah.
Going to NYCFC, me being a fan, I spoke to you off air about my frustrations. They have 4 goals in their last 7 matches.
Yeah,
They haven't scored multiple goals in a match since March 29th. They have
yeah,
13 goals for, 14 against. Where do you see them? I know you mentioned Alonso Martinez off air. Where do
yeah.
you see them getting these goals? And can they change this outside of that singular player?
I think they can, and this is going to be bold coming from me because I'm not a head coach. But when I look at New York City, I see a dangerous team. But I don't think they play direct enough. If that's you got Alonso Martinez, he's rapid, he can get in behind any defense. I think that should be option A. I think you should be going to him a little bit quicker and more
Mhm.
often. I also think Hannes Wolf on the wing is a very dangerous player. I just think sometimes because of the style of play, it may take you have a good time. Sorry, you have an easy time of getting up to the 18-yard box,
Mhm.
but sometimes it's a little bit, wasted possession, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I do think you have the players to win games. It surprised me with that stat because I didn't really know that they hadn't scored. I thought they had scored more goals than they had because of what I think of that attack. I think they're very bright and have some dangerous players.
That's also including their loss to, which is again coming off of a frustrating loss to a non-MLS squad in the
Yeah,
U.S. Open Cup. But yeah, the 6 of those matches are MLS, won the U.S. Open Cup. This is great in my head being
yeah,
watching the game. But you mentioned something there. It does feel like they have an ease getting into
yeah,
attacking opportunities. It just feels like similar to last year, they squander them. But last year, when they flipped the switch, they did have somebody like a Santi Rodriguez to aid Alonso Martinez, who to me I thought was the best player last year. And then prior to the opener, was announced that he was gone. And I don't think
yeah,
they have. I do like Wolf, but I don't think they really have that secondary
yeah,
option.
yeah.
Is that something that builds confidence as a team where you're like, all right, we're getting to the spot. We just have to convert. If we stick to what we're doing, stick to the principles. You as a player, would that have built
100%.
confidence? Okay.
100%. I remember going through times where I hadn't scored in a few games, and you start to hear people talk. But when I was getting chances, even if I was missing, as long as I was getting chances, I was all right because I knew if I keep doing the same things, if I'm start hitting the target or keep putting in the same areas, they will eventually go in. And I see New York City there. That's where I see you. You're a little bit unfortunate. Some misses that you would want again. I don't worry about them scoring goals. It's just a matter of time when.
So before we actually get to a prediction, just the transfer window, since the last time we recorded, it's been a little bit for the WFAN Daily doing an MLS pod. The Red Bulls stood pat. They didn't really make any moves. NYCFC brings in Aiden O'Neill from Standard Liège. For me, I know it's been a big narrative around the team. They made no moves in the offseason.
Yeah.
They really didn't do. They've relied a lot on their youth.
Yeah.
This did not really galvanize me as a fan. They needed scoring help. I know they wanted to pair someone alongside Johnny Shore as more of
Yeah.
a holding mid spot. How did you view that move of bringing in an Aiden O'Neill?
Um, yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't know much about him. I know he's playing
Mm-hmm.
in Belgium, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him. I just know that over the last few years, I've come to know New York as going out and getting someone big, a difference maker. And I haven't seen that in the last couple of seasons. I haven't seen that since maybe Tati. So that's what's a bit weird for me. I do think they need maybe one more attacking option for sure. Somebody big that can take the weight off Alonso Martinez. I think he had a great season last year, but to expect it, just to be as good next year without any help is going to be a little bit difficult. But yeah, very surprising. I was expecting their transfer window to be a bit more busy.
Yeah, I used to, and again, maybe it's just a wounded fan that I am right now. I used to trust them, both teams, to be fair, that when they would bring in a guy, somebody I'm not familiar with, that I would trust that this guy
Yeah,
is going to
it's going to get
turn
it
into
done.
something special. It doesn't
Yeah,
feel like they've hit on many of those. Anything that you expect from either of these teams big in the secondary window that opens in July? I know KDB is the big name, but I don't envision
yeah.
him coming to either of these squads.
I think it makes sense to go to New York City. For me, KDB would it makes perfect sense to me. Obviously, like sister club,
Hmm.
have the striker. Maxi's getting a little bit older,
Yeah.
and he plays like every minute for you. It'd be nice if you could keep him fresher. If he had someone to rotate with, like coming in for like a Kevin De Bruyne or something. So I just think you already have. If you bring in KDB with that Alonso Martinez, you have a 1-2 punch there.
Right.
For me, it makes sense. And then it obviously plays for Man City. You're going into a new stadium. It just makes a lot of sense for me.
Do you think it's a real possibility or no?
I don't know. I know that Inter Miami have the rights. I'm hearing he's
Yeah.
linked with Chicago. I
San
really
Diego,
don't
I've
know.
heard a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know, but
I mean, I would love it because I also think as an aging player, I know the MLS is a little bit more spread out, more of a running
yeah,
league, but as an aging player playing in Yankee Stadium, the lack of movement that you have to have for the style of player he
yeah,
is, I do
yeah,
think it would benefit him a little bit. And he's
it
not
would.
washed or anything like that, but I do think it would help in his health that he has struggled with over the last few years.
Yeah.
That was a little bit, that was just
You
for me
know,
because I was
and
wondering.
quickly, yeah,
Uh-huh.
quickly, another one maybe just for you. You know what would feel like a new signing? How long is Malachi Jones, right?
Right.
How long is he out for?
I was trying to get more information on that. They have been kind of tight to the chest. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I loved him down the stretch last year.
He when he does come back, he will feel like a new signing. That boy has got a bright future.
Right. And so that actually, perfect segue. That actually leads to my next question. I didn't include him in this, but both teams are stacked with young talent, very young talent, like
Yeah,
teenagers. Just to name a few, Julian Hall, Johnny Shore. Is
yeah.
there anybody, maybe it's a Malachi Jones, is there anybody on either of these teams, a younger player that really stands out to you and excites you as a fan, as somebody who covers the sport?
Yeah, so I mentioned Malachi Jones. I think he's brilliant. Great 1v1, can go by players, got a goal in him. Jonathan Shaw's been really good. I didn't know much about him, honestly, but clean on the ball to be playing in the midfield at that age.
Hmm.
Center of the park is a difficult place to play. Young players, you can throw them up front. There's not too much responsibility. But when you're playing in center midfield against some of these senior players and getting on the ball, distributing it, understanding not to be just running out of position, I've been very impressed with him. For the Red Bulls, yeah, we mentioned Julian Hall. I don't think he's played as much, but he's a
Hmm.
very young, good young talent. But one that's been playing and getting stats up is Mohamed Sofu. Mohamed Sofu is he's one of those quiet ones that people are not really talking about much, but he's starting the last few games. He presses really well. He's a real Red Bull player, and then he has a goal in him. I think
Yeah.
Omar Valencia at left back is done really well. I think he's one of the first players. Like he's got 5 assists from left back. I'm not sure, you know, what the actual record is, but he's doing really well, to coming in from next MLS Next Pro. One player that to watch though for New York City is the striker you have in the second team in MLS Next Pro.
Is
Reed?
that Maximo? Which one was that?
No, Reed is his name. Reed?
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. Yes. I tried to keep it as close to like the MLS squads, but yes, he's somebody who has garnered a lot of hype the last couple weeks
Oh,
for
okay, yeah,
sure. And then
yeah,
over the summer or over the winter, he was somebody, you read a lot about.
yeah.
Johnny
No, he's
Shore
good.
impressed me because the
Yeah,
first
he's
game
good.
he stepped in, he looked like he had played three or
Yeah, he
four
looks like
years
he's been playing
together.
for a while. Yeah,
Right. And I'm sure it's tough. I know it may not be the same as what we see with Yamel in Barcelona,
oh,
but
but
these are still kids playing with grown men from all over the world. So
yeah.
I was very impressed by that.
Impressed. One more player that I really like, and I think he had a great season last year, almost underrated, is Tavon Gray.
Oh, I
I
love Tavon Gray.
I think Tavon, I think he's got a now. I think he played in the last game, if I remember.
Yes,
It's hard for us because we watched 360s as a bunch of games. But I feel like I saw him. I think Tavon getting up, into the attack from right back. He's got good service. I think he will help in the attacking part as well. I know he's good 1v1 defensively, but he will help.
it's funny you mentioned him because similar to Justin Hawk, they're still very young, a lot younger than I am.
Yeah.
And I just forget this because they've been with the team
They've
so
been
long.
playing. Yeah.
Tavon Gray, Bronx native, holds a special place in the fan base's heart.
Yeah.
Also, somebody I think that the U.S. men's national team
I'm telling
severely
you.
overlooked and
Yeah.
should have been in that wingback rotation.
I agree.
And Jamaica really got a great
Yeah.
player out of him.
Again, I
The,
agree.
the time has come.
Go
The
on.
official prediction for this
Oh,
weekend's match. I'll go first to just lessen the blow. I
you're
do
gonna
not
get me abused. You're gonna get me abused right
Okay,
now.
well, I might get abused here because I do not envision a very good day for NYCFC supporters. And I
Yeah.
hate that I'm going to get a lot of flack from my buddies. I think
Yeah.
it's 2-0 Red Bull, and I think it's going to be one of those matches that the score doesn't even accurately depict how lopsided it actually was.
Because I know how derbies are, I'm going to say this 2-1, but I think New York City will go up a goal. I think Red Bull are going to have to get punched in the nose because it's really hard to match a team that you've beaten and knocked out of the playoffs and, your rival. So I do think Red Bull will win just because they're coming off of that high. New York City in front of goal haven't been lights out. But I do think they're going to go up. It's going to be a scare. It'll be a close game, but I think Red Bull will nick it 2-1.
So, one last question, too. Did you ever get to play in City Field, or were all your matches at
No.
Yankee Stadium?
All of them were at Yankee Stadium. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to wonder if how much I know the dimensions stay the same, but how much
Yeah.
different that feel is because it was built with soccer in mind.
Yeah.
Bradley, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending the time.
Thanks for having
As
me
always,
again, man.
man.
Thanks for having me. Anytime, man. Shout me.